Welcome to the final episode of Kingdom Love Stories, where we celebrate the power of faith, love, and commitment in marriage. Over the past few weeks, we've heard incredible testimonies from couples who have faced challenges, trusted God, and built their marriages on a solid foundation. Tonight, we close this season with an inspiring story from Mary and Charlene Storrs, a couple whose journey is a testament to God's grace, unwavering commitment, and the strength of kingdom love. From navigating life's ups and downs to growing stronger together through faith, their testimony will uplift and encourage you. So get ready as we dive into the final kingdom love story of this season.
I used to work as a teller at Scotiabank on Paradise Island, and Charlene worked for Resorts International, which is now Atlantis. So I used to see her come in the bank to cash a check, but I didn't know her, never really said anything to her. And I would also see her at the softball park, because I'd go to games and she'd be at the games. But it wasn't until a number of years later I met her at her nephew's apartment. That's Ethan Moss. And it was a chance meeting, and that was the first time I formally met her.
My version of the story was he was eyeballing me. But you can't blame me. But yes, we officially met through Ethan and my good friend who was his cousin. So an interesting combination. My nephew was his friend, my friend was his cousin, and we met officially.
Well, if you go according to her narrative, then that means I was afraid to talk to her. I didn't talk to her in the bank. I just cashed checks. But after we met at Ethan's apartment, we went out as a group one occasion. And for me, once I first spoke to her, I mean, she was a very attractive person to look at, but the real kicker for me was when she opened her mouth and responded to me, my questions, and she just spoke in a very mature, intelligent way, which was not always my experience with young ladies. And that got my attention immediately. After about a year or so, I was very confident that she was a very, very solid, mature person that I could rely on. And some of that also is born of history. You know, I had a traumatic, bad relationship before. And so what she represented was a mature, stable person who was someone who was no drama. So, and that was appealing to me, you know, and really somebody, integrity, character, somebody who was true to her word. Whatever she said, that's what it was going to be. You don't have to worry about the ups and downs and, you know, some twists. It was straightforward. And that was great. That was wonderful.
I think one of the things that happened that I think is important in any relationship is, I think at the time, I was pretty much the same summer we met, I would have been going back to college. So a lot of our communication, I think, was by telephone. And we did that even within that first summer. We did the typical thing that people who are dating do, talk on the phone for hours on end. You should be sleeping and you're up all night talking. But the distance made communication better, if that makes sense, because we did a lot of talking, sharing, talking about our goals. I felt like I was starting late in my schooling because I didn't go off to college until I was late into my 20s. And so I felt like I was playing catch up professionally. And so talking about what my goals were, you know, sharing mutual interests, that was the connection for me. Even though I'd look at him, oh yeah, he's good looking, I was never one to be drawn. I could see someone that's physically attractive, identify them as physically attractive, but not feel connected. And for me, I have to feel a connection first. And the real, true, strong physical attraction comes later. And so the talking, the communicating, the sharing, talking about where we, you know, what we think, what we believe, where we want to be, that was the connection for me.
I think too, a difference for us was that we were in our late 20s, pretty much hitting 30. And so we were more of a mature couple. And so you had greater clarity about what we wanted. And so you could kind of see whether it's a good match, whether we were equally yoked. And people talk about equally yoked only in a religious sense, but equally yoked could also be, do your future aspirations, do they kind of mesh? Can you see yourself 10 years from now working together, moving forward? And so I felt we were equally yoked in terms of our aspirations, what we wanted out of life, what we were hoping to accomplish. And of course, our spiritual base was pretty much, our beliefs were consistent. We didn't have a radical left, right in terms of what our viewpoint was. And then we were also prepared, which is something we talked through. We were prepared she was prepared to leave her church to come to BFM. And that, it wasn't presented as a condition in any way, but I think that she identified with the ministry and the teaching and so on. And so it was not a difficult decision to say, okay, we will worship at BFM. Well, one of the things that BFM has always taught and really emphasized is the importance of counsel before marriage. And so we embraced that. We did the marriage class before when we were beginning to think that maybe we were moving in that direction, but we weren't engaged. And then we actually broke up after that, and it was like 3-4 years, got back together, and so I figured, okay, we don't need to do the marriage class again. Pastor Richard say, no, you got to do it again. So we did the marriage class a second time. But the point is that we believed in and were prepared to submit to understanding the principles that would make a marriage successful. And BFM always focus on counsel before marriage. That's one principle.
For the record, it wasn't going through the counseling that caused us to end the relationship. Let's just make that important. Because, counsel is designed to show whether or not you're compatible, whether you agree on the same things, force you to talk about things that you probably ordinarily wouldn't cover, the types of topics. And I think we came through that strong. We just had differing views on something that made us go in different directions.
We had other issues. I had other issues. It's probably on me.
We'll see if the full story comes out. I think the biggest part of navigation is communication. And that probably sounds cliche-ish because people say it so often, but the reality is it's true. Even when we were dating, and I think without saying it, I think coming through the marriage counseling at BFM, we both had this almost like unspoken understanding that we're going to get married. We're going to spend the rest of our lives together. But, I shared before that we shared a lot about our goals. And one of the goals I had was to do the firm I was with had what they call a strategic career development program that involved you working in a secondment somewhere else for a year and a half. And I was next up, because you almost towing a line, because it's such a coveted program, everybody wants to participate. I was next up to be eligible to do the secondment, and I was set to go for a year and a half to the Channel Islands. And maybe Merritt need to tell the story from his perspective, but I think when I announced that I was going for a year and a half, I think it made him panic. And poor communication, what he said to me is, if you go, the relationship is over. We know now, through maturing in communication, that what he really meant was, the idea of you going away frightens me, which would have opened the door for us to discuss how we navigate that. But that's not what he said. What he said was, if you go, the relationship is over. I was.
Well, I guess I need to jump in because that sounds unreasonable when you hear it. But and this is the thing when you're a more mature couple.
Exactly.
I had some baggage I was carrying. I had previously been engaged to be married before, and the what brought that relationship to an end was there was an aspect of it being long distance. I was here, and the other person was in another jurisdiction, and there was some infidelity, quite frankly, and mistrust, and so that was severely damaging to me at the time. And the thing is, when you go into another relationship, you don't always realize the baggage you're carrying. It wasn't until she indicated that ordinarily I support, and I mean, I think it was a great thing that what she wanted to do. But the specter of going into another long distance relationship was really, I wasn't ready for that. And I still had that trauma from my last bad experience. So that's really what led to our breakup, to be quite honest with you. And sometimes we are carrying things that we haven't properly processed. I obviously hadn't properly processed that. I didn't think it was an issue until I was faced with it.
Yeah.
And so that created a rift that was very difficult to repair. It's almost miraculous that we got back together. I chased her for years, trying to make up and whatever, and she kept telling me no. And then, amazingly, one day she called me and said, "Would you like to go out?" And I was like, "This is crazy." But it really was born of my issue and my unreasonableness with what it was that she was going to do.
And that's why I say getting through difficult things is communication. Because again, his concern was I already did a long distance relationship and that didn't work. But that's not what he said to me. He said, if you go, it's over. Listen, I'm approaching 30. I think I'm living my own life. And I'm like, okay, see ya. When what I meant was, I'm hurt that you would say that because you and I had discussed what my plans were, and I had put on the table long before that I want to do this career development program that sends me away for a year and a half. So we were both not saying what we were really thinking and feeling. We said things that pushed each other away. If he had said, I'm nervous about a long distance relationship because I had one and it didn't go well, and I knew that history, but communication, effective communication, hindsight says, if he had expressed why he was concerned and we could talk about how we navigate that to alleviate the fear that he has, while he shows through whatever plan we come up with that he is in fact supporting me and my goals, I think it would have been a different story, right? So
and as a young man, I think I was just afraid to admit my insecurity.
Yeah.
That's really what the male, whatever that is, and I didn't want to admit that frailty. But that's really what it was.
Yeah.
It was an insecurity, a severe insecurity that I had at that time that needed to be healed, and it took time. It took time. The interesting thing is life takes you on different turns. She went off and did her program. At the time, I was working in the hotel industry. After she left, I decided I wanted to go to law school. So now I leave the hotel business. I go to school. She's finished. She comes back home. So I'm in the UK, but I would visit and I would make it a point to try to contact her. And we were friendly, but just made sure it didn't go beyond that friend stage, But at one point, I came and I pretty much said, I expressed the desire, the interest in reconciling, and she put up a hard no. In fact, she even got annoyed. And I left her house that day concluding that, okay, you shot your best shot. It's all done. Let's close the chapter on that. Let's move on. And I was cool. But
One thing I will say about marriage is even in that period when we were broken up, I used to find myself thinking, I wonder if this man realized we've broken up. Because, like, we had this disagreement and ended the relationship, may have been like April or early May. My birthday is the end of May. So he calls me up to say, what are you planning for your birthday? I said, I'd probably go out with a couple of my friends. He said, go out with me and you could go out with them on another time. And I'm thinking, how dare you? We're broken up. Do you remember that? And even when I did go off on the program, he came and visited me within 2 or 3 months of me being there, right? And all in the back of my head, I keep thinking, I wonder if he realized we break up. But he kept in touch. He's not kidding with that. I have tapes and stuff that he sent me from teaching at BFM. I had a birthday while I was away, and he orchestrated a full production, sent me this video, gathered family and friends, all with birthday messages to me. Every time I came home, he would invite me out to lunch or dinner. And so we did stay in touch, that's for sure. And even when, just before he was getting ready, when he decided he was going to London to do the law, I was actually in Channel Islands, which is really next door to England, between England and France. So he called me up and he said, are you interested in extending your time in the Channel Islands? So I said, no, why? Because I'm going to be in London. So if you extend your time, then we could be there together. And I'm thinking, this man must be losing it. I'm like, no, when my time is up, I'm going back to Nassau. You go and do what you want to do. But he consistently, I don't, stayed behind me.
that
A
last time,
respectable distance.
that last time I talked about dough, I said, okay, it's done. I accepted it. I threw in the towel. I said, okay, it's all done, and I'm good. Once I threw in the towel, then she came calling, and shocked me, you know. But,
Interestingly enough, there's a gentleman that's like a father figure to me, and he knows Merritt well. He knows our history. As a matter of fact, he tells me how he tell Merritt off, telling me crazy or etc. when the relationship ended. So we were having a conversation over lunch. It was a group of us. He's like a mentor to me, and so he says to me, you know, you're an amazing young woman. I don't understand why you're still not married. I'm like, boy, listen, relationships are tough, and I'm talking about these relationships I was in, you know, married and even after married. And he actually said to me, how long are you going to punish Merritt for that mistake? He said, I think you're being selfish and silly. And I was actually kind of hurt because I'm like, whose side are you on? So he's like, I'm on your side, and I think you're being unrealistic. And I had to really think about it. I did date at least 2 people after marriage, maybe even 3. And I found myself thinking, boy, I thought the issue I had with marriage was an issue. That was not an issue. This is an issue, you know. All of a sudden you're comparing. These people, they're not even making sense. At least marriage was sensible. And after, I'll call him Mr. B. After he said that to me, it made me like pull up and really think about it. I know that my mother absolutely adored Merritt. My whole family did. As a matter of fact, I used to be annoyed with them that after we break up, they would still call him for stuff. If my mother was at work and needed a ride home and no one was coming for her, she'll call Merritt to pick her up from work. And I'm like, what are you calling him for? Leave him alone. He was at the hotel. They would have these concerts. They would call him for concert tickets. And I used to be annoyed. Stop calling him. But all of them adored him, annoyingly so. I mean, it's good now, but then it was annoying. So once Mr. B checked me, I had like a rethink. And after some pondering, then I said, you know what? He's right. It's time for me to let that go. Because he did apologize for it any number of times and even explained why, but I was still stung on, you weren't supporting my goals. That's the way I viewed it. Because I had told him when in that time of exploring, when we were just learning each other, this was on my to-do list. And he had said then it was a great idea. So when he challenged my going, it felt like he no longer supported me. And I took exception to that. So I did call him up and I said, can we, I think we had an early dinner or something. And so I said, you asked me this before. I think I'd like to try it again. I will crack a joke on him because he said, that comes out of nowhere. I really have to think about that. And, he tried to play a little hard first. And I said, all right, think about it. He said, no, I thought about it. He pulled back very quickly. And boy, it's crazy. And after that, we were married in under a year.
Within a year. That was like October, and by July of next year we were married.
And here's the joke. All of our family and friends were like, I don't know what you guys were doing. You two are the only two who didn't know y'all were going to get married anyway. And I remember when I announced it to my siblings, when I announced our engagement to my siblings, my mom had already passed, unfortunately. And one of my sisters says, oh my gosh, Mommy would have been so happy. And then everybody started crying. And I'm like, why are we crying? But yeah, according to our family and close friends, we were the only two who didn't know we were going to get back together. So
I tried.
He tried. Wow. And when he stopped trying, then I said yes.
Well, let me start by saying, Charlene, and maybe this is true of women versus men, I don't know, but she can balance a lot better than me. I mean, there's a lot going on in our life. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a professional person. I mean, she's a director of a financial services institution, so she has a lot of responsibility. Family, extended family, church. So she balances. I'm not very good at the balancing. To me, it's career, business, and trying to catch up with everything else, which is not good. But I'm still aspiring to how she can multitask a lot better than I can. And, like I said, maybe that's a female versus male trait, I don't know. But I certainly am continuing to try to make sure that I balance. I think she tries to help me balance as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about married that I say shifted me. Before we got married, I used to say I was a giver, and I used to say that all the time. And then we got married, and I realized that he makes me look like a joke when it comes to giving, and that shifted me in a way that I really appreciate. And then married is incredibly focused. Actually, yeah, that's a bit of a two-edged sword for me sometimes, because that was one of the things I absolutely admired about him originally. Oh, this man is focused. He knows where he's going, and he's going. I'll admit that 21 years into marriage, that's one of the things that annoys me. Like, I'll say, let's do this. No, I didn't plan that today. This is what I have to do. And I'm like, be flexible. Let's go this way, right? But so it's a good thing and it's an annoying thing, right? But I think he reshaped me in my giving, and I'm not just talking about giving at church or giving with family, just giving of yourself. Yeah, me, it's really setting priorities. I mean, my job is incredibly taxing. I manage a team of people, and managing people is far harder than managing other resources. And I say this thing so much at work that everybody knows it. When I've put in my 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours there, on my way out, I say, okay, guys, I'm going to my real job now. That's my family, my children, my husband. And even as, when I get home, it's managing things related to the house. This isn't working, you have to call the plumber. The kids have this project at school, and we have to do all of these things. Just trying to keep them lined up. And from very early on, as a matter of fact, after the twins, and they're 13 now, we used to tease each other that we were like ships passing each other at night, because even on weekends we would sleep in different beds. He would go in the guest room with one child, I'll stay in our room with the next child.
Because they were babies.
They were babies and none of them slept well. And if we had both of them in our room, nobody slept. So we did this divide and conquer on weekends. And talking through that is, I know that sounds crazy, but we used to chuckle about it, right? We're like ships passing each other in the night. But it was a phase that we worked through, talking through it. You find your ways around. It's not as bad as you think, because when we go to the separate bedrooms, it's time to sleep. Just be clear on that. So we work it through communication. And after the boys, which demanded more of us as parents, we took a decision that at least once, twice a year, if we can, we will do a trip without the kids. And we've even done a local hotel for 2 nights. We have amazing family, so we're quite comfortable with one of my siblings. I have adult nieces who will come to the house and take care of the kids while we get away. If I had a work related travel or he had a work related travel, the other would take a couple of vacation days and go along, so that we have time with each other away from the kids, where we don't have to focus on being parents. We can focus on being husband and wife. And then on our calendars, we years ago we came up with this thing. We'd have lunch every second Thursday and date night every last Friday of the month, and put that in the calendar. I will sit down in January, create calendar invites, and send it to him, because as professionals, we live by our calendar. You know, that's prioritizing. And well, I must admit, now we're less consistent with the lunches. Our date nights at the end of the month is far more consistent. But I remember one time Merritt calls me and he says, "Oh, I have to cancel our lunch date because I don't even remember what it was." And I gave him a little stare down and I said, "Let that be the last time, because that was in your calendar. Anybody else call you, your response needs to be, 'I have a prior engagement.'" And he pulled up and then he goes, "Yeah, you're right. I won't do that again." I'm like, "Okay, thanks. We're good." Right?
I, I will tell you that it's challenging. I mean, trying to balance everything. And I'm constantly questioning whether I've overcommitted myself, to be quite frank. Charlene thinks I'm overcommitted.
Yes.
So
The
I
answer
think
to
it's
that is
clear.
yes.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Stretching yourself maybe too much. So I think that tests our marriage, the amount of commitments that I have. And so I'm always reassessing whether I need to pull back something, release something, and that's an ongoing process. In fact, I will say that this year, one of the things that I said to Charlene was I really wanted to make clear that marriage and family was the priority this year, so that it's not competing, or it's not the feeling that it's falling into second place. And so that's my main goal for this year, to make clear and make her feel as if the marriage and family are priority, which they always have been, but I'm not sure that you need to feel it.
Yeah.
And so that's my goal for this year.
And even though I put pressure, positive pressure, I try not to nag. I tease him that I'm like the Holy Spirit in his life. I will nudge him on something and then I will leave it. But the comfort for me is, yes, he puts in a lot of hours doing any and everything, and he finds it very hard to say no to people and things. And I tease him, you could say no and still be saved, right? But I am conscious. I'm very aware that even though I would like to see him create more balance, I always know where he is. I know what he's doing. Um, he works hard, and I teased him once or twice. It'd be okay if you don't earn extra, right? We're okay. You could try to pull back, relax more. He works most Saturdays. He's gone off to the office. I never wonder where is Merritt, and if he's earning more, where is the money going? Because the communication we have keeps that information flowing. And so even though I would say he is overstretched and I want him to slow down, my concern is more for his health than for our marriage, if that makes sense. Because again, I know where he is, I know what he's doing. And even though I would say, don't do so much, take on less. Oh, someone asked me to help him with this or the next. And I'm like, when are you going to fit that in? Right. But I know where he is. And that's comforting for me.
I've never contemplated divorce or separation. There's never been anything that traumatic in our relationship that it would have led me to even contemplate something like that. There are challenges that happen. I mean, challenges come in waves, and sometimes there are challenges within the marriage, meaning that interrelationship, communication. I may have said the wrong thing. I had paid a little price for that for a while. Or it could be something external that's coming at you, you know. There have been things that have come at us that we've had to deal with, but I think we're guided by principles. You know, marriage is successful. Marriage is based on principles. One of those principles is transparency. You have to be open and transparent about everything. Your finances, what's going on with you. You know, like what I mentioned earlier, that was traumatic that led to our first breakup. Well, something like that could occur during your marriage, but you have to be able to talk it through. So we always go back to what are the principles we know that we've learned at BFM that will make marriage successful. Communication, being transparent, being open, um, understanding the differences between males and females. I mean, males and females are not wired the same. You know, the same facts and stimuli that I will respond to in a particular way, she will not. And so I need to be sensitive to that, you know. So those are the things that will help you get through the challenges as they come at you.
I think our breakup when we were dating helps me. Um, when we broke up, I went out with other people and I saw what real issues look like incompatibility, etc. And bearing in mind that I called him when we did get back together, I have this philosophy that if Merritt and I can't make it, I probably won't make it with anybody. So when he gets on my nerves, as he does sometimes, or vice versa, my philosophy is I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So how are we going to fix this? That's a decision, right? And that decision requires communication. And that's why I said previously that I think communication is the key. So I could say, you know, it really annoyed me when you did X, Y, or Z, or I don't like the way this is going. And sometimes it takes a while to get to that because particularly for me, if I'm really upset about, there's certain things, if it upsets me, I can address it right away. Back it up. None of that. Da, da, da. There are other things that I have to process for myself. Why did that annoy me? Or why is that annoying me? So I have to process that. Why is this annoying me? Or why am I not happy with this? And then when I've settled in my mind what that is and what it should look like, and sometimes I have to pray, okay, God, prepare my husband for the rebuke I have to give him. So that when I come, I'm coming at him in such a way that he can actually receive what I have to say and not shut me down instantly, right? So, and that's why I say communication is important, to then come back and say, all right, there's something we need to talk about, and you know, then talk about it. 9 times out of 10, we each have to acknowledge what our role was in that caused that, and then make the way forward. But like Merritt, in 21 years of marriage, I have never contemplated divorce. For me, it's always been, all right, I don't like this. What do I need to do? What do I need to say to get us moving back to the point where we want to be? And we've had highs and lows, like what I call stale points, where we're so busy juggling life, you know, our individual work challenges, what's going on with the kids, what's happening at the house. Just running a household is another job. And so we go through these phases where we're in autopilot. And thankfully, the date nights, the trips that we take with or without the kids, because there's something about stepping away from your normal routine that energizes you. I have a good buddy that used to say and still says, a change is as good as a rest. And sometimes taking that vacation, and we do tend to take travel with the kids at least once, twice a year, and without the kids, same. Of course, not everybody can do that because that requires a certain level of disposable income. But there are things you can do, is what I realize. Even if it's go out for a drive, go sit by the beach, go out, have some ice cream. There are things you can do to shift the flow, the mode it's on, to recreate excitement or interest or remind yourself of why we're here. I mean, even sitting talking like this is a reminder, oh, look where we've come from. Oh, this is why we're here, right? And I think BFM has helped us with that because even we teased that we did the marriage thing twice. And now we have an opportunity to come back and teach two of those sections within that. And even preparing for those presentations, we teach communication, and there are times when our communication is not quite there. And I can remind it, we teach people about this. Why aren't we getting it right?
It's an
right?
ongoing process.
Yeah, and it's a lesson to all of us that we know what we know. We have a lot. We're not lacking information.
Yeah.
It's
Marriages work.
it's turning that information into action.
Marriages work.
I have a niece every year on our anniversary. She says to me, "Happy anniversary. You and Uncle Merritt make it look good." And my program response to her is, "Oh, sorry, y'all make it look easy. Forgive me. Happy anniversary. You and Uncle Merritt make it look easy." My program response to her is, "It's not easy, but it's not easy work, but it's rewarding work, right? It's something we have to work on continuously. There are days we have highs and there are days we have lows. There are days I love him to pieces and there are days I can't stand him. Like, why would he do that?
Ooh.
How can he say that? That doesn't even make sense. Why would he do that? But it's a cycle. And and so if I had advice for a married couple going through something, the expression "don't throw out the baby with the bathwater." Talk through it, work through it, and we've seen enough. Even marriages where people separate and come back together. There's a reason you come back. It's because you probably look back at the situation and realize, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought, or maybe there's a way we can get past that, even if it was really bad. And the trick is to be able to do that within the fight, the challenge, the disagreement, the annoyances.
Yeah.
We, my kids get on my nerves. I never think about trading any of them in, even though I may have said it once or twice. I'm done. I'm no longer your parent or whatever, in jest. But I know I always want to be their mother. I know I always want to be his wife. To me, it's the same principle. Somehow people can more tie that commitment in as a parent, but struggle doing it as a spouse. And I think it's the same kind of push, the same kind of fight, the same kind of determination, the same commitment.
Well, one thing I can say about KEM, or Kingdom Marriage Enrichment Ministries, is that you get an opportunity to interact with couples, like-minded couples. And through interaction, one of the things you find out is that sometimes we're in silos and we think that what we're experiencing is unique to us. But you'll be surprised that some of the same issues, like we're talking about juggling career and family and stuff, maybe some immaturity on my part at one point, there are things that other people are experiencing that are very similar to what
Yeah.
you're experiencing. And if you can develop a sufficient rapport and comfort level with other couples, you can talk without not being in an environment of condemnation or feeling, that you can't relax. And so when you can develop relationships with other couples, it's amazing what you can learn about their marriage that will help you, and vice versa. Iron sharpens iron, as is often said. And then, unfortunately, I think also as Christian couples or kingdom couples, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to be social. So, we go to church, we go to work, we home, and that's the end of our life. And that's not good for a marriage. A marriage needs a spark. And that ministry can provide a spark through the various social activities that are available. So it's helped us in that regard, and we've always been kind of in a leadership role in it. And so that also, when you're in any leadership role in relation to marriage or anything, the spotlight shines on you a little bit, and so it makes you also always have to check yourself. Are we doing this right? What are we doing? But Cam has been great, and the current flow of Cam and the leadership and the enthusiasm has been awesome. The programs, because it's a mix. You have a date night. Sometimes you need to be taught. And again, couples need to be willing to submit to sharing and counsel from somebody else about their experience, about finance or about romance or about sex, health issues, all these things that are important to couples, and sometimes people will not speak about privately. It's easier in a group setting.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the key things that Merritt said that I will repeat just for enforcement is whatever issue, or I should say, most of the issues that you face as a husband, as a wife, is not unusual. At my office, for example, there are a number of women who would walk in my office and share something that their husband did that, to them, they don't understand why. And I would, my program response is, he's not that unusual. Men do that stuff. That's what women do. And when you start interacting with other couples, then you get an appreciation for that. And not only that, with consistent attendance, you build relationships with other couples. And our hope within the care ministry is that you build the kind of relationships so that when you're having an issue, you have someone you can go to share that issue where it's a safe space. There's not everybody I will share that Merritt annoyed me with X, Y, or Z, because that could be distorted. But in a safe space, when you know that there are other couples around you that share passion for marriages and would be concerned for your marriage the same way they are for their own, you can share that and it feels safe, because more than likely that person or persons within that environment will give you sound advice. He's annoying me. You don't need, girl, if I were you, I'd pack my bag and get out of there. No. Okay, is there something you can do? Perhaps try saying this or consider that. Just that wholesome relationship building environment with people with similar mindsets and a common goal to rebuild our marriages, to create a new spark, right? Rekindle, refresh, renew. That's what we're pushing for. And that environment that says we all agree that this is what we want for our marriages. And it helps that we have fun too.
Hi, I'm Merritt.
I'm Charlene.
We're Team Storr, and this is our Kingdom Love Story.
Marriage was ordained by God. In the book of Genesis, we see that the very first marriage was instituted by God. He stated that it is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helpmate suitable for him. Here at Bahamas Faith Ministries, we believe and therefore teach that if you want a happy marriage, you must focus on gaining knowledge and the application of that knowledge. It has been proven that if we apply the principle of God's Word as it relates to love, we can experience the love of God daily in our marriages. So if you want to experience a happy marriage, or you wish to get general information on what it means to be married, or learn how to enhance your marriage, we have the solution for you. Bahamas Faith Ministries International will be holding another premarital webinar series from February 28th to April 11th via Zoom. To participate in this webinar, you can collect an application from the foyer at Bahamas Faith Ministries, complete it and place it in the seed box. Or you can also fill out an application online at www.bfmionline.com. The cost to attend this seminar is $100 per couple or $50 per person. If you need further information, you can contact the ministry at 461-6400. Please note that this webinar is not just for BFM members only. It is open to anyone who wishes to gain information before getting married and learn how to maintain a successful marriage. So once again, register today by completing an application either in person or online at www.bfmionline.com. What are you waiting for? Register now.
This is Pastor David Knowles, thanking you on behalf of our senior pastors Dave and Angela Burrows, and our fellowship pastors Kirsch and Suzette Darville, and our entire pastoral team for your ongoing financial support to Bahamas Faith Ministries International. We are focused and will remain diligent in obeying the commission given by Jesus Christ, our Lord and King, to his disciples when he was leaving earth. He said to them, "Therefore, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." So here are 4 ways that you can continue to aid us in doing this. Number 1, go to our website at www.bfmionline.com and go to the Give button. Number 2, at the seed box at the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center in Nassau, Bahamas, the place where God lives. Number 3, by direct deposit in the Bahamas. Our bank is the Bank of the Bahamas. Our account is in the name of Bahamas Faith Ministries. Our account number is 135-000-0886. Our branch is Shirley Street Branch. Our branch number is 03157. Number 4, by credit card, in person at the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center. So let us take over the world for the kingdom of heaven. Know that you are blessed in Jesus' name.
What a beautiful and powerful way to close this season of Kingdom Love Stories. Merritt and Charlene Storrs' testimony reminds us that love isn't just about the good times. It's about standing strong in faith, choosing each other daily, and allowing God to lead the way. A huge thank you to all the amazing couples who shared their journeys with us throughout this series. We pray that their stories have blessed, encouraged, and inspired you. Missed any episodes? Catch the full series on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more powerful testimonies in the future. Tell us in the comments, what was your biggest takeaway from this season? Until next time, keep God at the center of your love story.